Hola, hoy es martes 11 de junio y continuamos con el capítulo 4. Okay? Okay, so yesterday we looked at and some vocabulary about the different places around town. Okay? So today we are going to look at more verbs, learn more verbs that refer to different activities and that we can use with the expression tener que plus an infinitive. Okay, we mentioned that expression briefly in last chapter, in chapter 3, when we talked about expressions that require the verb to have, okay, instead of the verb to be. One of them was tener que plus an infinitive. All right, so tener que plus an infinitive is the expression we use when we want to talk about obligations. To have to do something, okay? I have to get up early. She has to buy a new car. They have to prepare for the test, okay? So we're going to conjugate the verb tener for the different persons. And whatever is the action that you have to do or that somebody has to do is going to, the verb is going to stay in the infinitive, okay? So for example, if I say I have to prepare for the exam, I'm going to say yo tengo que preparar para el examen. Okay, so this after que is always going to be in the infinitive form. What you do have to conjugate is tener, okay, for the different persons. See? Okay, so here we have some more verbs. We have almorzar, and some of them are cognates, a few of them are cognates. Almorzar, to eat lunch. Cerrar means to close. Comenzar, to start. And all of these verbs and words, the vocabulary, they are all at the end of the chapter, all put together in categories if you want to refer to the meaning there. Okay? Costar means to cost. Mostrar, to show. Entender, to understand. Encontrar, to find. Dormir, to sleep. Pedir, to ask for. Pensar, to think. Perder, to lose. Preferir, to prefer. Volver, to come back or to return. Servir, to serve. Seguir, to follow. Repetir, to repeat. And recordar, to remember. Okay? So some of these you can use with the expression tener que. Okay? For example, if you want to say I have to eat lunch at noon. Okay? So almorzar is a verb, but you have to conjugate tener. You can say yo tengo que, and almorzar is going to stay in the infinitive, al mediodía, okay? Or she has to find her keys, so encontrar, so it would be ella tiene que encontrar sus llaves, okay, her keys, okay? So the verb that comes after que is going to stay in the infinitive, and you do have to conjugate the verb tener, okay? Okay, muy bien. So here you have some vocabulary, some verbs, and some of these I think they were in chapter 3. Okay, so you're going to practice with this new set of vocabulary and verbs. Some, okay, and then we have verbs that have a change in their stem, okay, in the root. Okay, verbos con cambio de raíz. All right. So in the last chapter, you learned a variety of common verbs that are irregular, and two of those are poder and querer, okay? And they're irregular because they have changes in their stems, okay? So these are some groups of verbs that they're put in a group because they have the same kind of irregularities, okay? So there are some verbs. I'm going to make this a little bigger. There are some verbs that the root is spelled with an E. The root would be ser up to the double R. And it's spelled with an E. And when you conjugate them, they change from E to EE. Okay, from E to IE. E, change the E a IE. IE. So cerrar is the infinitive. When you conjugate them, you have to change the E to IE. Yo cierro, tú cierras, usted cierra, él, ella cierra. Nosotros and vosotros, as I told you before, are always going to be regular, so they don't change. Cerramos, cerráis. Ustedes cierran, ellos, ellas cierran. Okay, and down here you have a group of verbs that conjugate the exact same way. That are verbs like cerrar. Okay, they change from e to ie. Comenzar, so yo comienzo, tú comienzas, él comienza. Empezar, they both mean to begin. Entender, yo entiendo, tú entiendes, él entiende, nosotros entendemos. So all these verbs are conjugated exactly the same way as cerrar. Okay. Muy bien. Then we have verbs that show a change in the root. They are spelled with an E in the infinitive, and the E changes to I. Okay. For example, pedir, which means to ask for. So, pedir, when you conjugate it, is yo pido, tú pides, él pide, usted, él, ella pide. Nosotros y nosotras, they stay the same. They don't change. Ustedes piden, ellos piden. Okay? And so here we have other verbs that conjugate exactly like pedir, and they are repetir, seguir, y servir. Okay? Now, the yo form of seguir is sigo. Okay, so that is irregular in the yo form as well. Okay, muy bien. And then we have another group, two more groups, the ones that change from o to we. O, we. For example, encontrar has an o in the root, but that o changes into we. Yo encuentro, tú encuentras, usted, él, ella encuentra. Nosotros and vosotros doesn't change, they don't change. Ustedes, ellos, ellas encuentran. Okay? And other verbs that conjugate the exact same way as encontrar are almorzar, costar, dormir, morir, mostrar, recordar, y volver. Okay, so those are all verbs that conjugate the same way. And then the last group is the verbs that change from u to we. U, we. They're not as common. Okay, for example, the verb jugar. Jugar, that u changes to we. Yo juego, tú juegas, usted, él, ella juega, nosotros jugamos, vosotros jugáis. Sí, nosotros and vosotros, they keep that u. Ustedes, ellos, ellas juegan. Okay? Muy bien. So those are the new groups of verbs that you're going to be working with in your activities in My Spanish Lab. Okay? So get some good practice with those, because these are, like you can see, very common verbs that we use all the time in everyday conversations. All right, and at the end of this section, kind of in the middle of the chapter, you have the ¿Cómo andas? How are you doing? So kind of look at this and see how you're doing in these areas and what you need to work a little harder on, okay, if you feel confident or if you need to review. And as always, if you have any questions or any doubts or anything that you want me to explain again, please let me know. And we will look at some more sections tomorrow, mañana, miércoles, okay? So I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.